Everybody ready down there? Are we on? Are we on? Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our council meeting. Hi. It's nice to see you tonight. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'll have a roll call by our city clerk, Marcy Killian.
The record will reflect that all members are present.
We're going to have a Pledge of Allegiance and our invocation by Matt Cormus, Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club of Vista. Welcome, Matt. And then please remain standing after the pledge for the invocation.
May we prove ourselves worthy citizens of our city, county, and country, and be devoted to truth and confident in steadfast faith. Make us greater than our problems and to stay greater than our responsibilities. This is a time in our year when many of us turn our attention to the spiritual side of our lives, when we consider what light we follow. Help us to understand that no matter what name it is given, and in what language it is expressed, that philosophy called the Golden Rule is indeed the truest guidepost by which we can mark the trails of our existence. Please give us an international time of peace on earth and goodwill towards everyone. And finally, we ask you to guide those who, as our government leaders, make their daily decisions that affect us so that their efforts, whether international or local, shall be motivated by the same great golden rule of goodwill. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. In accordance with the Brown Act, I'd like to announce that as a result of convening simultaneous meetings, the members of the Buena Sanitation District will receive compensation of $147.75 for the district meeting pursuant to Buena Sanitation District Ordinance 2006-1. The next thing is the approval of the agenda by our city manager, Patrick Johnson.
Yes, Mayor, there's one change under item C10, the fifth recommended action. It should read amending the operating budget for the 2013/14 fiscal year and amending the citywide classification and compensation index. And I want to apologize on the timing of the issuing of this report. There was a lot of coordination that went into it, and thank the council for their patience.
Thank you. Yes?
I'd like to ask, there are several members of the audience that wanted to make oral communications this evening. Perhaps we could move the oral communications to the beginning of the agenda, as I feel there's several action and discussion items that we'd have to encourage them to sit through to make those comments to the council. So I'd ask that we would, before we approve the agenda, move the oral communications to the immediately following or prior to the consent calendar. The council is amenable to that.
Are you asking to move the whole issue? The whole, which issue is it on? There's
It's two oral
Right.
there's two oral communications? And you want to move them to, when do you want to move them to?
Prior to the consent calendar, just
Okay.
at the first of the meeting.
Okay, after the presentations?
After the presentations.
Okay. Has everybody agreed to doing a motion for that?
Would be appropriate.
Okay. A motion's appropriate? Okay, then I need a motion to move that.
I'd make a motion that we move the public comments oral communications immediately following the presentations this evening.
Do I have a second? Okay, move in second. Everyone, do you want us to just raise our hands, or are you going to? Nope. Please vote. Okay, that passes unanimously, so it will be moved until before the consent calendar. The next thing is our closed session. Will bring us out of a closed session, our City Attorney, Darrell Piper.
Thank you, Mayor. The council met in closed session today for the items number CS1 and CS2 on today's closed session agenda. No actions were taken that are required to be reported at this time.
Okay, and that brings us to we have two presentations tonight. One is the Moonlight Cultural Foundation presentation supporting the productions for the 2013 year, and that'll be Karen G. And then the next one after that will be the proclamation declaring Pepper Tree Frosty Day in the City of Vista with Danny Villasenor. So we'll do the Moonlight Culture Foundation presentation first. Do we need to all go down there? Do you guys all want to go down there? They're going to present us with the check, so everybody might like to go.
Thank you very much. It is our pleasure to present the City Council a check for $175,000 to support the 2013 Moonlight Stage Productions year. It is the sole mission of our organization to continue to support the quality productions that have been brought to you by Moonlight Stage Productions, both at the Moonlight Amphitheater and at the Avo Playhouse. Thank you very much.
I'm happy to accept this check. That's here, $175,000 from the Moonlight Foundation. So that's great. Thank you so much. We appreciate it so much. And the plays this year were outstanding. I don't know if everybody went to the Moonlight this year, or how many of you went, but if you missed it this year, for sure go next year because the plays are amazing. So thank you so much for doing that. Thanks. Thanks, Jane Mitchell, too. Thank you, both of you. A picture, yes. We got to be out here in front, though. Where it's
Get over, Jane. Get up here.
Try to do this. Okay.
okay, and with that, where's Danny Villasenor? Oh, there you are. Come on up here. Actually, have your whole family come up here. Come on, Velia and yes, of course. This was the family thing. It's been the Vista for more than 50 years. All of you are involved. The whole family. For Pepper Tree Frosty, I don't know. I'm sure everybody has been there more than once. I know that I have. So, well, let's see. Come over all over here in front, and then we'll get a picture taken. Stand right here, and I'm going to present it. Okay, everybody. Okay, everybody. I'm going to read this. Here. This is for you. And let me read this, and then we'll get our picture taken. Okay. So this is a proclamation. Whereas the Pepper Tree Frosty has been selected as the 76th Assembly District's Hispanic-owned Business of the Year in recognition of its long-standing support of the community, steadfast commitment to customer service, and high business ethics. And in recognition thereof, Pepper Tree Frosty and its owner, Daniel Villasenor, are deserving of special public commendations. Whereas the family owned and operated in downtown Vista for more than 50 years, Pepper Tree Frosty was purchased by Joseph, better known as Chewy, and Velia Villasenor in 1960. Raise your hand, Velia. Okay, and whereas Pepper Tree Frosty has been special to the Villasenor family, Chewy and Velia and their children Chris, Daniel, Lydia, and Vicky, all of whom grew up working in the store. When Chewy passed away, his son Daniel and his wife took over the business. And whereas for hundreds of teens and young adults entering into the workforce, Pepper Tree Frosty has provided the community's youth with a healthy work environment, one which enabled them to acquire valuable skills, develop a positive work ethic, and experience the rewards of hard work. Whereas Pepper Tree Frosty has enjoyed the support of a loyal following of generations of Vista residents and patrons from surrounding communities who have greatly contributed to its success as a business, and whereas the community of Vista is fortunate to be served by an institution of the caliber of Pepper Tree Frosty, which has proven to be a healthy and positive force within our community. Whereas publicized as the best ice cream shop in San Diego in 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012, and if you haven't had any ice cream over there, I suggest you get over there, by the local 10news.com poll, Pepper Tree Frosty has avidly given back to the community through philanthropy and the support of myriad, what was that? How do you say the word? Myriad, thank you, organizations. Daniel Villasenor also has demonstrated leadership, serving as vice president and member of the board of directors for the Vista Boys and Girls Club. So, now therefore, the mayor and members of the Vista City Council congratulates Pepper Tree Frosty and its owner, Daniel Villasenor, and the family on its selection as the 76th Assembly District's Hispanic-owned Business of the Year. Thank you for your service, and hereby proclaim Wednesday, December 11th, 2013, as Pepper Tree Frosty Day in the city of Vista. Yay!
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Okay, I've got the check. Know what to do with it here. Okay, so the next thing on our agenda is our consent calendar. Oh, no. Oral communications. Ooh, I almost forgot. Sorry. Okay, oral communications. So the first person to speak will be Julianne Lodge, and followed by Carolyn Chedester. This Alta Vista High School presentation on Foothill, right? Okay. Thank you. Do they have one?
Good evening. We're students from Alta Vista High School.
Okay, speak right into your microphone so everybody in the back can hear you.
Good evening. We're students from Alta Vista High School, and today we're gonna say a speech of present a Foothill Public Park space.
The community of Foothill needs a public park where families can go and spend their time in a safe, healthy environment. Our data shows the majority of people living in the Foothill neighborhood do not have a yard. It's not working.
Well,
That's the next one.
that works. There it is.
Our data shows that many Foothill families live in a crowded home. Almost half of the people that we surveyed live in 6 through 12 people. Our data shows the greatest need is for children to have a public park. However, every member of the community will benefit greatly from a public park.
All the facilities will be used by the community, and basketball courts were the most popular, but there's a big need for unreserved grassy areas, shady areas, and places for children to play. Which shows that our graph.
Our data shows that children and teens are interested in playing sports, but the top 3 activities they usually do are watch TV, play video games, going out to visit friends. While visiting friends can be good, but also can lead to getting involved in drugs or criminal activity. Let's get them playing more sports and watch less TV.
According to our survey, almost half of Foothill's residents owns a dog, and not only do the people need a park, but also the dogs too.
Some people might argue that we already have enough parks in Cedar Vista. Many families who live in Foothill apartments do not have cars. There are no parks within walking distance of the Foothill area. Also, most of the parks are reserved for team sports and not available for the general public.
Some people think creating a park will cause too much crime in the Foothill area. We can prevent crime from happening in installing cameras and having a neighborhood watch.
Our purpose today was to raise awareness about the need of a public space for the residents who live in the apartment in the Foothill area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming and making that us aware of that.
You're welcome.
I just want to thank these young gentlemen for coming out here and educating us and taking the time to look into a project like that and putting that effort in. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's very good.
Yeah, I already asked to make a comment too.
Sure.
That it's a brave thing to prepare something and do the research that you did, and I think you've had guidance to help you, and this is certainly one way to get a message across of importance. And I, for one, will be interested in looking at that area to see what, if anything, might be feasible, considering some of the issues you've brought up to my attention. So thanks again.
Okay, with that, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We are going to go on to our next speaker. Whoop. Oh, my next speaker. Okay, Carolyn Chedester.
Thank you for moving this part of the meeting up. My name is Carolyn Chedester, and I'm president of South Vista Communities. Recently, there have been some inaccurate statements made at city council meetings by public speakers regarding the South Vista Communities organization. For the record, I would like to clarify the purpose of South Vista Communities. SVC is a grassroots advocacy organization dedicated to maintaining and improving the quality of life for residents and businesses in South Vista. We offer a forum for those who are interested in sharing their concerns and seeing what informed, organized residents can accomplish. We publish an information-packed newsletter that keeps our residents and the public up to date on what's going on in South Vista. Have you ever become aware of a proposed project that might impact your home or workplace? Or worse yet, didn't find out about a new project until it was already underway? Have you ever wanted to take action to correct an existing neighborhood problem but didn't know whom to see or contact? You are not alone. There are other like-minded citizens in the area who care about those issues too. Citizens willing to take informed actions to alter the outcomes. That's SVC, and together we're making a difference. SVC both initiates actions to improve the community and responds to proposals of others that will impact the quality of life in South Vista. Our representatives meet regularly with Vista's elected and administrative leaders to make them aware of the concerns of South Vista residents and businesses. Many changes are taking place in Vista, and the city will continue to change with business and residential developments in the future, including zoning changes, regulatory amendments, and redevelopment projects. There will be many opportunities for SVC to help shape these changes, guided by our primary goal of maintaining and protecting the quality of life in South Vista. If you're not yet a member of South Vista, please come join us. We need you. You'll have an opportunity to provide input, bringing up issues that concern you or your neighbors and making suggestions for future SVC involvement and activities. You can serve on committees or the board of directors if you're so inclined. General membership meetings are held several times a year. Suggested annual membership donations are $25 annually and tax deductible, and anyone is welcome to be on our mailing list and receive our newsletter at no charge. Thank you for your time, and I'm going to drop this off with Marcy for the record.
Okay, thank you. And that brings us to our consent calendar. The recommendations on the consent calendar will be enacted in one motion unless an item is removed from the calendar. Any member of the public can remove an item by submitting a request to speak card to our clerk secretary. Items removed from the consent calendar will be considered immediately following the adoption of the calendar. So with that, are there any, I don't see anything removed from the audience, from the consent calendars or anything from the,
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
okay, please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. So the next thing on our agenda will be our discussion items. And our first discussion item is D1, appointment of a deputy mayor for next year.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint John Aguilar, Councilmember Aguilar, as deputy mayor for the coming year.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Seeing no speakers or no discussion, I would ask you to, oh, did you want to say something, Councilmember Campbell?
I do. You know, as a matter of protocol, when we look at other cities, the deputy mayor tends not to rotate back to someone who's held that position, no offense to Mr. Aguilera, that's held it in the same 4-year term when there's 2 other individuals who have not held that position. You know, we look at Escondido, where Deputy Mayor Olga Diaz is currently in that position. You look at Oceanside, which is rotating it back, I believe, to Esther Sanchez, Councilwoman Sanchez. And you look at Vista here, and we're proposing to rotate it back to someone who's held that position already once in their term. The first year, I believe, you were elected to the council. Obviously, I think that that's an issue which we need to examine a little bit closer. Obviously, the council is going to vote to do this, but I just want to make that aware to the public that this is a very unusual situation which doesn't traditionally happen. And I bring up the cities of Escondido and Oceanside because of one very distinct reason. Those 2 individuals that will be deputy mayor of those cities, and one currently is in Escondido for a 2-year term, is the sole lone vote out in many occasions, is a not with the council voting majority. But because of protocol and well, just common sense of allowing those individuals to help represent their constituents more in their community, that opportunity is given to those individuals. So I'll be voting no on this just because it isn't the right thing for the residents of the city at this time, and it's a political maneuver which is very transparent to anybody who pays any attention to these sort of things. So my vote is no, and thank you.
I would just comment that it's been done this way for many years, ever since I've been on the council for 15 years, and there are lots of other cities that do it the same way that we do it, so it's not unusual.
What way would that be?
Excuse me, but I'd like to have the vote, please. That motion passes with 1 abstention or 1 no vote. Okay, moving on to the next thing, which are the appointments to the of officials to boards, committees, and commissions. And before I go there, I would just like to say, upon further review, I would like to make a couple of changes, and I'm going to replace Councilmember Coles with Councilmember Rigby on the Sandag Public Safety Committee, and also replace her as alternate on RISWA, replacing Councilmember Aguilera. So and the one thing about the Sandag is the mayors actually make that determination in January. We put the people on the committee, so that won't change until January. And I'm not guaranteed of those spots, but they usually let us have them, and we've had them for several years, so we'll hope to have it again. So, but those would be my changes. So with that, I would take.
I'll make a motion to approve those recommendations.
Okay, I have speakers here.
I think Councilman Aguilera, you were trying to push yours first.
Okay, Councilmember Aguilera.
I'll second it.
Okay, did you do that just a second?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay, Councilmember Campbell.
Well, first off, we're going to have a little talk on this matter. This may take a little bit of time, but these appointments, I'm going to make very clear in public what's going on here. That a political maneuver that other cities haven't even dared touch, their mayors of those cities, even in Oceanside with all of the rancorous meetings that they have and disagreements, never was what you're trying to pull right now, which is an unexcusable public act perpetrated upon the residents of Oceanside, and what you're trying to do in this city here will not go unnoticed by the people of this city. What you have done, and I believe, I'm not going to make any accusations here on this, but I'm going to say this. You look at this agenda item, you look at the recommended appointments here, and there's one problem with this. Last year, you recommended the appointment of myself and Councilwoman Rigby to 2 positions each, which were essentially irrelevant, sidelined items. Councilwoman Rigby got, I believe it was, representative to the League of California Cities and to the Vista Irrigation District Ad Hoc Committee, which was called as needed. And I believe that hasn't met in several years, someone told me. Mr. City Manager, maybe you can correct me on that, but I believe BID Ad Hoc Committee meets very infrequently.
That's correct.
Right. Which traditionally has not been done even in the city of Vista here for newly elected council members. And you recommended, and the council voted on myself being a representative or a liaison to the Vista Village Business Association and as an alternate to North County Transit. And the remaining positions were reserved for yourself, Councilman Aguilera, and Councilmember Coles. Perhaps that was because you didn't know who we were, or perhaps more likely, not your picked personal choice for these council positions and endorsed in the last election. Because I'd be hard-pressed to buy the fact or a statement that you would have done the same to the 2 hand-picked candidates that you backed the last election. So, okay, we'll give that aside for a year. Here we are today, and yet you've decided you don't want me on any single position or liaison to any committee in the entire city's appointment list. This will not stand in this community. It is unexcusable, and it is a political farce. How dare you think that the 7,000 plus residents of this city that voted to elect me to this position will not go unnoticed? They will not notice that you're trying to do this. It isn't right, and no one in these North County cities have the political nerve to pull some stunt like this. My goal, and as I've always said, day in and day out, is to represent my constituency and every constituent in the city of Vista. And by you doing this, you're saying you don't think that those 7,000 people count. You're going to say they do. You're going to say, oh, no, I don't like the job you're doing, or I don't believe that there's not enough whatever. But that isn't going to be what stands in this community. And, you know, I believe you met with Councilwoman Rigby in her office, closed door, just a few minutes before this meeting started. And I don't know what that was about, but I'm guessing it's about, oh, you know what, I'm sorry, I didn't put you on any appointments, because originally, look at the list that's in the agenda. You had put yourself as alternate to the North County Transit District Board. You had provided Councilwoman Rigby with only one other appointment, which was a liaison to the Vista Village Business Association, and what she currently has, which, by the way, that group, as we all know, has severe issues, and their meetings consist primarily of the ones that I attended, and informed City Manager Patrick Johnson several months ago that I would not attend those meetings because they consisted of what I call bashing the city of Vista and complained. As you know, that group is primarily driven by former Councilman Lopez that you personally didn't agree with or get along with at all either. So I'm not going to vote for these appointments at all, because this is not the way democracy works. This is not the way that representative government works. You cannot silence myself or the other constituents in Vista because you simply don't get along with me, because I was elected to represent constituents in Vista, and I will continue to do that, whether or not you want to put me as someone representing this city or this council on these boards, because I will continue to meet with elected officials outside of the parameters that you have tried to silence me with. So I will no longer, stand for these sort of actions.
First off, I'm not trying to silence you. When I put people on committees, I usually check attendance. And out of 11 meetings that you were on, of the committee that you served on, you made it to 2 in February and March and didn't go to any further meetings. So, and also, because you're running for mayor against me, and you're saying discouraging or disparaging marks against me and against the city of Vista, which reflects negatively on our city, and I don't appreciate that, because actually in all the councils in 15 years, we've never had this type of whatever it is on the council like this. So we've never really had that. We've always gotten along.
Representative democracy.
We've gotten along as a team before. Excuse me, I'm talking. And so that's the reason I didn't put you on there. I would not call the League of Californians irrelevant. And also the reason I put myself on as alternate to North County Transit District is because I served on there for probably 9 years previously, and it's easier to step in when you have the knowledge, when you have a complicated board of directors. It's easier to step in when you have knowledge of that board. So with that, I have other speakers here. Apparently, it's lit up here. So Councilmember Aguilera would be. No, he's done. Okay. Coles, you have anything to say, Deputy Mayor Coles?
Just a comment. When I became elected to the City Council, I was not even aware that there were committee assignments that fell to council members. And at the time I came on, there was some unsettling elements on the council. 2 council members left, and the mayor needed some council members with a little bit of experience about the governance of the city and the relationship with some of our agencies that we work with that needed to be to have representatives sit on those committees. In the past, those committee assignments have usually been long held because there is a need to have continuity in the representation. Currently, I'm on the solid waste board and the Encino wastewater board, and I came on both of those because of the departure of other council members, and there needed to be somebody from the city with some background about our city governance to represent us. As I've served on those, one for 3 years, one for only a little over a year, I've come to find out that the continuity of my understanding of how those agencies operate, a little bit of the history, you have to spend a little bit of time coming up to speed so that you have an understanding of what it is you're voting on. And there needs to be continuity, and agencies of that kind have a difficult time in managing their operations if their board of directors changes every year. They get a direction, they find out how the cities want them to be directing their resources, their energy, and their priorities, and then if a year later it's all new people coming on board into that leadership, it's hard for them to maintain the kind of continuity and long-term direction that they need to have. In political office, sometimes those by necessity are changed because of representative government, as you've mentioned. Somebody gets voted, I may get voted out of office. I won't be able to do it anymore. That's the reality of the political process. But where possible, in my own experience as a key administrator and now as a council member, it's nice to be able to have some continuity of direction. And I think sometimes you have to earn the trust of your fellow council, of your city, and in no way is this council in my long history of being in the city of Vista and an elected person, stifled the notion of representative government. You have a chance to talk. I have a chance to talk. Nobody is eliminating or creating an environment where you can't express your feelings. We may agree or disagree at times, but I think I support the process and the motion.
Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you. I just want to address the comment regarding the League of California Cities appointment. I don't find that to be irrelevant. I have said publicly and privately many, many times that during the campaign when I was running for this seat, one of the issues that I held dear to my heart was that the city of Vista and the citizens and the residents here be represented on the state level. And Mayor Ritter was listening to that. We had talked about that. She was attending the debates and was reading articles, and she knew that that was a passion of mine and that that was an adequate and appropriate appointment for me because it affords me an opportunity to meet with fellow electeds not only throughout San Diego, but throughout the state, local electeds as well as state electeds, and to attend conferences and policy committee meetings that reflect statewide legislation that would impact the city of Vista and the residents here. So that's an appointment that was appropriate for me. So that's been said publicly and privately. I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Campbell.
And I didn't mean to insinuate to Councilman Rigby that the League of California Cities was irrelevant. What I had insinuated was it was the attempt to put us in positions, and you and I have had this conversation in the past of the first election, following the election, of positions that didn't carry weight or votes representing the city of Vista on what traditionally are the committees or appointments that carry that power with it. The League of California Cities is a very important position representing the city at that. The League does make great strides and efforts to represent local governments in Sacramento to our legislators. What I was going to say is I want to respond to something the mayor said, which was, you don't want me in any of this because I'm running for mayor against you. Well,
no, it's just because you're saying disparaging remarks against me and the city.
No, I have not made disparaging remarks against the city. I've made disparaging. No, I have not. I've made disparaging remarks against you and your unfit leadership of the city, which doesn't exist. Maybe you need to take a leadership class. I don't know. But what I'm going to say is this. Maybe politics isn't your thing. Maybe you need to look at the other cities and understand that sometimes in politics, you work together. You look at the other side. You have two sides of an issue, and you work together to find common ground. You don't ignore that other side and say, well, I don't agree with you, so I don't want you on anything. Other cities don't do that. Other mayors in other cities, look at Escondido. You have Sam Abed, who helped appoint a deputy mayor who's running against him, and they don't agree on anything. Yet they understand that this is a representative process. This is a system where voters put us here. You don't want to just stifle one side and set that group aside and set one council member or two council members aside and say, I don't agree with you, so I don't want to put you as a representative on anything. You mentioned the attendance to the VVBA. Well, hopefully the city manager passed along the memo of the issues with that organization and the issues with those meetings. And as you know, there are points in time where representing the city at a function where if you want to talk about a group that makes disparaging remarks against the city, by all means, that is right there up at the top of the groups that do it. And I made myself available to those members of that board at any time. Many of them have my cell phone number to contact me directly with any issues that came up. I followed their progress on meetings and what was going on within that organization. And to say that that's the reason is another sort of comment of that's not true. That's not the reason. The real reason is I'm running against you for mayor of the city, And I'm going to make the issues very clear as to why coming up. We can do that in another forum. This is not the venue to do that. But, you know, this is going to be, thank you for doing this, because I guarantee you the people of the city will not approve of this. There is an election upcoming. We all know that. It's next year. And come that time, these sort of actions, this is not the sort of government that the people of this city want. This is the sort of action is why U.S. Congress has single-digit approval ratings. So you're doing the same sort of action that people don't like. That's just simply the point. So please vote on this. The council is going to approve this, and let's not forget, because this is going to be an issue next election, and people won't forget this.
The campaign over. Can we vote?
No, I have one more request for comment.
Yes, Deputy Member Cowles.
In the history of my relationship with Vista and the governance of Vista, I don't think, and we've had some rancorous times, I've never seen anything quite as polarizing as the dialogue that has gone on here. And if Congress's approval rating is low, it's because of the personal attacks, the polarization of positions, so that it's hard to get people to agree on good things. And I think by isolating yourself as somebody working against the rest of your fellow council members, or at least trying to rise above what seems to demean our role and bring righteousness to the city, I'm not sure that that's what our city's been looking for. We've all been elected, we've all had our campaigns, and none of us ran on a ticket of overthrowing City Hall or changing the way we do business. We functioned pretty well as a city. We continue to function well. We've come out of probably the worst economic doldrums that certainly we've seen since we've been a city. And I think that's because we've been able to work well with our staff, who recommend how to bring us to the level of solvency and positive support that we have. And for me, I'm going to try to keep us going in a balanced directions without creating upheaval and name calling and unmitigated attacks on our fellow members. Thank you.
I'm just going
I want to call for the vote.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll second that. Please cast your votes. That passes with one no vote. Okay, done with that. That was just, okay. That would need, okay. Now we need to vote on vote on the issue. Now we need to vote on the action.
There was already a motion, though, right?
We have a motion and a second, right? Yeah. Okay, cast your votes again, please. That motion passes with one no vote. Councilmember Campbell. Okay, moving on to our next item is the Climate Action Plan, and that is going to be taken by John Conley.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. John Hamilton, our environmental planner, will be providing a brief presentation, and then we'll be available for questions.
Good evening, Mayor Ritter and City Council members. Tonight, I'm going to have a very brief conversation with you regarding the Climate Action Plan. Okay, next. There it is. The review of the presentation this evening includes a summary of the addendum number 1 to the General Plan, or GP 2030 Update Impact Report, or EIR, a summary of the Climate Action Plan, or CAP, and staff recommendation. Next. In giving you a background of the addendum, the program EIR for the General Plan 2030 update included a section on climate change, and a quantified cap is identified as a mitigation measure to reduce significant impacts from greenhouse gas emissions. However, because the cap was not yet implemented, climate change impacts would remain significant and unavoidable under CEQA. So therefore, the Council adopted a statement of operating considerations back in February 28, 2012. The reason for the addendum is to fully ensure that the cap complies with state CEQA guidelines section 15183.5 and the city's GP 2030 update. And staff prepared an addendum to the GP program EIR for that reason. Next. Purpose of VISTA's cap is threefold. It's a long-range plan to reduce GHG emissions from community activities and municipal operations in VISTA to support the state's efforts under Assembly Bill 32. It allows tiering and streamlining an environmental review of cumulative GHG emissions for future projects and helps achieve General Plan 2030 goals, including lowering energy costs, reducing air pollution, supporting local economic development, and improving public health and quality of life. Next. The scope of VISTA's cap includes identifying VISTA's 2005 baseline and 2020 projected GHG emissions, establishes the GHG emissions reduction target, which is consistent with AB 32, which means that it's 15% below 2005 levels by 2020. It stipulates municipal and community climate action measures to reduce GHG emissions, and it establishes implementation and monitoring procedures and possible funding sources. There are 6 focus areas of climate action measures, which are the measures that the city will undertake to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and they are under municipal operations, energy, transportation and land use, solid waste, community education and outreach, and adaptation. As you can see in the right-hand side of the table, those are the estimated reduction in greenhouse gases, which are expressed as MTCO2e, which means metric tons of CO2 equivalent. So the total VISTA GHG reduction estimate through the implementation of our cap is 32,033 metric tons. Did I say million tons before? I'm sorry. It should be metric tons of CO2 equivalent. And the total reduction to meet the AB 32 GHG target is 27,187 metric tons of CO2 equivalent. So as you can see, we're meeting and exceeding the 15% reduction required by AB 32 by a little bit. So therefore, our staff recommendation is that the City Council adopt addendum number 1 to the GP 2030 update program EIR and adopt the city's cap, including replacing the cap Appendix B, Table B2, with the revised table included in the add to packet document in the agenda report. Thank you.
I have 2 speakers. Do you want to hear the speakers first? Okay, I have Mike Bullock, followed by Diane Nygaard.
Hello, good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. I'm Mike Bullock. I'm a retired satellite systems engineer, having worked at Lockheed Martin in Sunnyvale for 36 years. I'm also the transportation chair for the 12,000-member San Diego chapter of the Sierra Club. Climate plans need to result in each sector and each geographic entity doing their part to achieve climate stabilization. On July 24th, 2012, we sent you a 28-page letter about your draft environmental impact statement. And so that has our detailed comments. I feel that this was actually, for the most part, ignored. As far as I know, it was completely ignored. Now, at some point, we wanted to meet with each of you, and fortunately, we were able to meet with Councilman Campbell, and that meeting was extremely helpful. Our next goal was to meet with you, Honorable Mayor, but you did refuse to meet with us. I do have those emails. Now, your executive summary states, and it was stated here again tonight, that the CAP is, quote, a long-range plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions within VISTA, end quote. However, only attempting to get 2020 emissions down to the 1990 levels, and that's that 15% below 2005 is the same thing. That's an estimate from 1990 levels. That's not long range. That does not comply with CEQA, since climate destabilization is a negative impact, and methods to avoid those negative impacts must be considered, and you have to go past 2020. I distributed a letter to you tonight, and I did that because I wanted to talk about some of the figures that are there. The first one is 800,000 years. The blue is the CO2, and the red is temperature. And you can see that the CO2 is now higher than it's been at any time in the last 800,000 years. Any earth science textbook, and I brought one up here, says that we are putting great quantities of CO2 into the atmosphere, and that atmospheric CO2 traps heat. Now, in the second figure, the red is CO2 and the blue is temperature, and it shows that in the last 1,000 years, our atmospheric temperature is rising. You can see that the blue line is moving up very clearly, and CO2 is really off the chart there. The final figure is what I really wanted to show you, though, because that's the trajectory of S305. And you can see that after 2020, the slope gets very steep. This is very serious. 2020 is not that far away, and you have to have enforceable measures in place and functioning, and a plan to reduce well beyond 2020.
Mr. Bullock, your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I've said everything I want to, except for one thing, and that is that the news is not good on climate. S305 is not fast enough. That 2050 target needs to be met by 2030, and so that's why we really have to get moving on this. And so I ask you not to approve that climate action plan now. We'll need to do better. Thank you very much.
And the reason I didn't meet with you is because I hear you all the time at Sandag, like you're down there quite often, and I've read your letters, and I've actually seen this before at Sandag, so that was the reason I didn't meet with you. So, Diane Nygaard?
Mayor Ritter,
I'm sorry.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
To
Mr. Bullock?
Mr. Bullock?
Yes.
In your letter dated today, December 10th, 2013, in the first paragraph, you state that you wanted to meet with each of you addressing the City Council, and unfortunately, only Councilman Campbell would meet with you. I don't recall being invited to meet with you, and just for the record, I never decline a meeting with anybody regarding anything coming before the City Council.
Thank you very much. I might be wrong about that. I didn't check. I've been out of town. I came in today, and I didn't check my email to see if I ever sent that email that I intended to all the council members. I may not have sent that.
So the record reflects I was not invited to meet with you. So
if we could meet, I would very much like to meet with you now. Even though you're probably going to approve this, I would still like to meet with any one of you on climate.
I will take any meeting that anybody in the city wants to have.
I look forward to that meeting. Thank you very much.
I was not invited to meet with you, and I would have been happy to meet with you because this is an issue close to my heart. So.
Very good. Let's meet. Thank you.
But you did not.
I'm so sorry about that. My letter is wrong as far as I know. I didn't check that to see if that was right. And I wanted to do it, and I thought I did, but I guess I didn't. So thank you very much.
I didn't get it either.
I didn't get it either.
Hi, Diane.
Hi. Honorable Mayor and City Council, Diane Nygaard, and actually I'm here tonight wearing two hats, representing Preserve Calavera, which is how most of you may know me. We're North County Conservation Group, and we realized about a year or so ago that it didn't matter what good things we have accomplished in preserving our wonderful natural resources. If we do not address climate change, it's all meaningless. Scientists are now predicting that 1 in 4 species now on planet Earth will be extinct by 2050. 1 in 4 extinct by 2050 if we do not get a handle on this. My other hat is for representing North County advocates, and their focus is a bit broader on quality of life, and this also is a priority concern of theirs. And I know you've received a letter from Everett Delano and other comments from them. Of course, this climate action plan is an important step in the right direction, but it's not a big enough step. And what you do here tonight is certainly not going to solve the problem. We all know that. It's a global problem. It needs to be addressed with global action and national action and state and regional, local, and all of us as individuals. But what you do here tonight matters, and what we want you to do is Vista's fair share towards addressing this issue, because we all live here on the same planet. There's 3 changes that we have recommended. We think they're easy things that you can do tonight, and that really won't cost the taxpayers of Vista anything. Set a target for 2030. Authorize a stakeholder group, provided we come up with the funding to staff that effort. John had mentioned a figure of $30,000. I thought that's a pretty hefty number, but that's the number he said, and that's the number we're committed to raise to support that effort. And coordinate the actions in your climate action plan with your capital improvement program. Right now, those are not in sync. I'm 67 years old. Many of us here in this room are about that generation or older. We're not going to see the results, really, of what happens here tonight. These things take a long term to bear results, a long time. So we're doing it for John's children and your children and grandchildren and Cody's future children. What we do here tonight matters. So we ask you, if you need to approve this plan, please include those 3 modifications. And we know those future generations will all thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, this is important. I'll take my speakers, but I just want to say that, we had outside counsel review this, and so we meet and exceed the minimum. So I will go with my outside counsel's advice at this time. So do I have other speakers? Councilmember Rigby, you're still on there, Is that from last time?
It's from last time. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Coles?
Yes, I came prepared to support this item on the agenda because it has been a long time in formulating the recommendation that meets or exceeds the requirements that we have to live up to. I'm not opposed to going further than that, but I'm not prepared to do that tonight. I'd rather have a more formal or a better discussion about what ramifications that might have. I'm amenable to looking at some of your suggestions in terms of how realistically or efficiently we could do that. At this time, I think we need to move on with this action item, but I'm open to future modifications if that's feasible or workable. And again, I need to be educated a little more on what that might mean.
Councilmember Campbell?
Councilman Aguilar, you can go first. I had a few questions for staff, so maybe. Okay, well, all right. First off, I'm going to share my personal opinion on this, which is this doesn't do anything but get us to the bare minimum of where we're legally required to be, and that's not on staff's fault for having that. I think your hands were tied on this, but meeting the bare minimums, is that what we're shooting for? The mayor just said it meets the legal minimum, and we had outside counsel look at it, and that, to me, that doesn't get us to where we need to be as a society. Do we want to just shoot for the bare minimum and say, hey, I'm doing all the law minimally required of us, so that's what we're shooting for? This climate action plan doesn't address anything beyond the bare minimum statutory requirements. I think the comment to letter B, and this is on page 355 of 358, number B2, where it says, currently there's no statutory requirement to reduce greenhouse gas emissions past 2020. That's the silliest thing. That's what we're shooting for is 2020, because that's all the statute requires of us. But is the climate going to suddenly change in 2020 and we no longer need to project on reducing greenhouse gases past 2020? Let's get our heads out of the sand and realize that this is a long-term plan, not 2020. That's not long-term. We need 2030, 2040, and looking at ways as we as a local jurisdiction can reduce greenhouse gas emissions and develop and help develop the industry of clean energy, building efficiency standards, alternative power supplies and alternative power sources. These are the sort of things that we as a city have within our purview to help meet the global greenhouse gas reduction goals that we should all strive for. And this plan, quite frankly, wastes a lot of paper telling us that, well, we don't have to do anything past 2020. Maybe we need the state to tell us to do that, is basically what it says. And if we have to rely on the California State Legislature to tell us that we need to plan past 2020, we've got some other issues going on with terms of coming to reality on the facts of man-made greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. So, Mr. Connolly, maybe you can tell me a little bit, are we striving to only go for the 2020? Is it a cost issue why we're not planning out to 2030 or 2040, tying this in more closely with our capital improvement program budgets? And walk us through a little bit of what some of these issues are in terms of, are we, from a city standpoint, saying that we're only trying to meet, and maybe the city manager can follow up with this, are we only trying to meet the bare minimums, or what? Walk me through that.
Well, I think, Councilman Campbell, you hit the nail on the head when you asked if it was cost considerations, because that is the primary driver that I think we focus on at this point, especially considering the past few years and how the economic downturn has affected the city and what resources we have available to us. So in updating the general plan, one of the primary considerations that we looked at in adopting new policies, particularly related to climate change, where we play a very, very small role globally, is to meet the standards that we're required to meet under state law and not expend a significant amount of city resources doing that. In other words, try to meet the goals that we are required to meet without dedicating ourselves to spending a significant amount of future funding that we may or may not have available. So we certainly could have brought a more robust plan forward that has more aggressive thresholds to try to achieve. But I don't honestly know that we would have the resources to be able to do that. And so what's the value in that? So our plan was to create a plan that met what the state established in AB 32, the 2020 threshold, to identify how we could meet it by spending the least amount of money that we could possibly spend, and come forward with a plan that shows that we met the obligations that we committed to in the general plan. We fully expect the state to come forward in the next few years and provide additional guidance to the cities in California as to how we need to meet future global warming initiatives and reduce our GHG. And we believe we'll have to go back and revise our cap to meet those thresholds. But meeting thresholds for which there is no state guidance at this point, we have real concerns about, like I said, committing ourselves and resources to something that we don't necessarily know we're going to have to do.
Right. Well, you know, I'm going to be working with our state members of the legislature to implement exactly what you just mentioned, the guidance to cities such as ours, so that we have that 2040 guideline and goal that mandates, apparently that's what we're going to have to do for a city such as ourselves, is mandate that we have a minimum threshold. I applaud you for your work. I know this was a very long process, multi-year process in developing this particular plan, but it doesn't meet the objectives long run of providing for reductions in harmful GHGs. So, you know, what I think that I'm going to do first off is I'm not going to be supporting this plan, not because it's not what you've intended and set out to develop, but because we do play a very small part in overall greenhouse gas emissions. We know that we're a small city compared to the entire planet. But if everybody took that attitude of, well, we only play a really small part, we can't do anything, then nothing will ever change. So I think, you know, we have an opportunity here tonight to show real leadership in terms of we're going to take that step in looking at long-range planning, reducing GHG, and really pushing our community to become more energy independent, reducing unnecessary greenhouse gas emissions, and really showing and paving the way for other cities that this is not only good for the environment, but it's good for the economy. You know, time and time again, studies have shown that green energy, green technologies, and reducing GHGs, develop industries that improve your economy and create high-tech, good-paying jobs, which is exactly what our community needs. So, you know, to me, we as a city maybe don't have the funding right this minute to implement an extremely aggressive plan and retrofitting buildings and doing all these things that reduce GHG, but we shouldn't stick our heads in the sand and say, well, the state only says we have to plan for basically 6 years, so why would we go any further than that? Because it's just not something that we have the money for right now. To me, as a council, we are, you know, the folks that need to set this policy to help move our community and other communities across the state. Fortunately, the legislature had the foresight to do AB 32, because without AB 32, there's no way that we'd be sitting here tonight talking about greenhouse gas reductions. And fortunately, they require us to do this, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it if it was an optional advisory plan. So I really want to see something more aggressive. I want to see something that helps our economy, creates jobs, and helps protect our environment. So I'm going to be opposing this plan tonight.
Councilmember Aguilera, followed by Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you for your questions. Very similar questions. So the cost would be quite extensive, I understand, if we went out further.
Well, we don't know.
Okay.
Because we haven't done the analysis, but essentially we've identified a threshold, and we've identified a number of measures to meet that threshold, each with a cost. So I want to respond to one issue, is that we're not doing nothing. We do have a number of proposals in there. We do identify costs of approximately $400,000 a year in capital money that we're going to have to dedicate to energy efficiency projects and energy generation projects such as solar energy and alternative energy sources over the next 6 years to get us to the 2020 threshold. So we are committing money and resources to it. It may not be as aggressive as the council would like or members of the council, but it is in the plan to provide for some resources to meet those standards. To get higher, we have to identify additional measures. Each measure has a cost. There are also a lot of what I'll call arbitrary measures in the plan that commit us to doing things like land use changes to allow for smart growth. A lot of the things that we've already done in our general plan, but we have to rely on private development and private investment to make those things happen. People have to get out of their cars and use alternative forms of transportation. Well, we can't control that. We can only control that through the planning of how we allow new things to be built, and we've done that. So we're taking measures in that direction, but to increase our threshold to a higher level, we're not sure what those measures would be that we would have to implement to get to that higher level, and it would definitely add cost to the program. So we can do that. It would just be at the council's direction to go back and revise the plan and look at what those options are.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I think one of the things, you know, when you're in city government, you always have to weigh the cost versus the benefits, and I think this is a smart use of taxpayer money. You know, we don't know what the cost would be. I think the fact that we're, quote unquote, meeting the minimums or barely exceeding the minimums, we have to take in, you know, it's all relative. The state of California, my understanding is it's probably the second best state in the United States in greenhouse gas reduction. So, I mean, we're not just some, you know, we're not there with some of these other countries. You know, this is a global issue. It's a much bigger issue. There's over 7 billion people in the world, and we represent 100,000 people. So I think it's, you know, a little naive to think that we could really make a huge difference. And I do understand that every little bit counts, and I don't disagree with that. But I do look at the fact that we have a set amount of money that we can spend for all of our services. And so I think this is a smart way to spend our money. And I'll be supporting this. And thank you for all your work. Appreciate it.
And don't we go back, John, every few years and we update all of our plans. You know, every several years we go in and look at them and update them to whatever new standards are
We'll definitely have to do that with the cap, and I also want to remind the council that, as I said in the staff report, this issue of energy efficiency or reducing greenhouse gases is going to continue to come up when we talk about the operating budget and the capital improvement plan budget and identifying projects that we want to spend public money on. There are always options to go in that direction. It may or may not cost more money, but we'll be bringing those issues forward when we look at those budgets in the future.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you to staff for preparing this and bringing this to us. And I would like to just agree with Councilman Aguilera in that even though we're saying that we're meeting the minimum standards by the state of California through AB 32, those are some pretty significant standards that we're meeting, and they're high standards, especially relative to the rest of the country. So I'm proud of that fact that we are doing that. And we all in the city and on the city council, I think we all recognize that we are one people on one planet. And I think the city of Vista is doing a good job as to being good stewards of the community and of the planet and our environment. And even though we're meeting the minimum requirements of AB 32 through some of these programs, there are other areas and other ways that the city is being energy efficient and green, et cetera, and being good stewards. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And I'm going to be in support of this in that it is the minimum requirement mandated by the state of California, but it's still a very good place to start. It's a good resource for our funds. And trying to go out any further than that with the science, the technology, and the state mandates, I'm not sure that going out further than this is appropriate at this time. So this does have my vote. Thank you, and thank you very much.
That's the end of our speakers, so I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion is second. Please cast your votes. That motion passes with 1 no vote by Councilmember Campbell. Okay, the last thing on our agenda. Oh, did we close the public? Oh no, no public hearings. We had public hearings. I'm sorry. I was wishing. Public hearing number 1. We'll open the public hearing on fees for city services and recreation and community services policies and procedures. And who's going to take that?
Thank you, Mayor. Bill Fortmuller is going to do the first part, and I'll follow up.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Annually, we come before the council to request approval of fees and policies associated with our department's programs and services. Although we don't like to raise fees, this year we are impacted by 2 major factors: the increase of the state minimum wage by $1 on July 1st, 2014, and escalating SDG&E utility rates. In addition, the Cultural Arts Division saw a reduced donation from the Moonlight Cultural Foundation this fiscal year of approximately $150,000. The minimum wage increase alone will impact our department budgets by about $120,000. In order to keep our programs within the subsidy levels that have been set by the council, we need to increase some of the fees associated with our program offerings. At the Senior Center, we're going to raise our facility rentals by 6%. In the Recreation Division, recreation, sports, and day camp fees will increase 5%, and early childhood education fees will increase 3%. Cultural arts will see a $2 increase to ticket prices and an 8% increase for our facility rentals. Additional revenue, approximately $180,000, is anticipated with these proposed increases.
The Community Development Department last updated our fees in 2002 with a comprehensive review of the staff time involved in different planning applications. Some of the things that we do day to day are not included in the current fee schedule, and so we're recommending some changes to incorporate those things. That includes an annexation, an environmental impact report, and landscape plan check. The new state requirements obligate us to check landscape plans for installations of over 5,000 square feet for new single-family homes, and so we're adding a new fee for that. We're also asking for the allowance to do minor amendments to site development plans because of small changes to projects that have already been built. We don't really have a process in place for that, as well as what we call substantial conformity review, which is reviewing applications that have already been approved by the council or the planning commission for minor changes that the developer needs to make because of topography, drainage, other technical issues. Within the building department, there are already fees identified in our schedule for reinstatement and construction without a permit, and those are also codified, but we're including them in the fee schedule for the purpose of clarity. And finally, we have our city clerk's fees, which they want to codify.
These fees have been charged, but we didn't have them memorialized anywhere except for the paper copies since 2002. And so, and even those paper copies haven't gone up in cost. We just wanted them to be shown somewhere so that people know what we charge when they ask for notarization, certification of life, maps, and DVD copies.
Thank you. Do I have Councilmember Rigby? Are you from last time, or is this a new one?
No, this is the new one. This is just on this one.
Okay.
Anybody who remembers my votes on Parks and Recreation Commission, and I see Mr. Fort Mueller and Mr. Conley shaking their head, I have always traditionally for years been the one who has opposed any increase in the fees for recreation, for our community, for our citizens. And this is a really tough one for me, to be very honest, because these are external forces that we have no control over that are forcing our hand with the significant increase in SDG&E costs, the cost of living, the minimum wage that's going up. We perhaps are looking at another increase in minimum wage in the next year or two. So those are forces that we really have no control over, and they really do impact the cost of doing business in the city that we're paying out as the city. So this is very hard for me to have to vote on for this one, but I don't see any other way. Since our costs have gone up so significantly, we do need to see if we can recoup some of those costs. And I know that not all of the costs are recouped, especially through recreation, 100%. And this is just a way to still get us to the 70%. Are we still at the 70%?
We hope to be with these increases, yes.
With these increases to still get us there. So it's
in the subsidy levels. Yes.
Right. So we're not making money on this. We're just trying to keep up with the pace of what's going on externally.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Councilmember Aguilera.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to, I guess, say ditto on that. It's always hard to increase fees. But the economy changes in state law are requiring it, and there's some outside forces that we can't help. I do have a question about the annexation fee. Is that the fee that we're charging currently, or is that, and then we're just, I guess,
when we adopted
it here too, or?
When we adopted our fee schedule in 2002, we had a moratorium on annexations that had been in place for several years, and so I think the staff just overlooked the annexation application process in creating that schedule. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't on there, but we got annexations starting in 2005 or 6, and we had to charge a fee. So we charged a fee consistent with the special use permit, which is about equivalent amount of work involved. It has to go through planning staff review and go to the planning commission for a recommendation and the council for approval. And so we are proposing the same fee.
So if I had, say, an acre in the county and I wanted to annex that acre, it's going to be the $69.58, right?
That's the city fee, and then you have to also pay fees to LAFCO when you go to the county for final approval, but that's correct.
So, but if I had 100 acres, it'd still be the $69.58?
Correct.
Okay.
The staff effort is not that different.
So is this, I guess, equivalent to other cities and what they charge for that as well?
It's all over the map. I mean, it really is. Some cities charge almost nothing, and some cities charge twice what we do. It just depends on when the last time they updated their fees and how accurate their projections are. But we're on the higher side, honestly, in terms of application fees for planning applications.
But that's where we've been, I guess, right?
Where we've been since 2002, because we did a study that showed the staff time and what it really costs.
Just want to make sure it's not going, so that's not going up?
That is not.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. We have a speaker that I just got a speaker slip. Yuri Lopez, do you want to?
Hello, Council. My name is Erube Lopez. I'm a Parks and Recs Commissioner. My point here is to say that a few years ago, the council did the 70% subsidy level for parks and recs, and I understand the reason why it was done. My point is that I think the staff would be better off if they had more flexibility. There might be some programs that require more than the 70% subsidy. Other programs would require less. So by giving the staff more latitude on which to decide which programs need the higher fees, because at this point, the staff just has to meet the 70% subsidy. So my point is not that we're charging too much or too little, but that if we relax the mandate on the staff to meet the 70% subsidy, maybe we can get better bang for a buck. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Councilmember Coles.
Yeah. Thank you for that observation. And I asked Mr. Fortmuller, is that something that would help with your ability to balance the program budgets?
Well, like in each division, each program might not be this. Individual program might not be the 70%, but the final outcome of the division is a 70% subsidy. Right. So basketball, adult or youth basketball might be 80 or 90%. Yeah. Flag football might be 60%, but when it balances, we're stay at the 70%. So we do have some flexibility now.
So you can do some of that balancing.
Right. Each program isn't set at exactly 70%. We look at the division budget at the end.
If there's something that we could do to help you with that balancing act, let us know. Okay?
Yeah, we need more money.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so with that, I see no more speakers, and I think we're all.
I make a motion to close the public hearing and approve this item.
I'll second that.
Okay. Cast your votes, please. That passes with one Councilmember Campbell voting no. Okay, so the next one now is our last public hearing number 2, and this is conduit financing for Caritas Affordable Housing.
Did you open it?
Yes, that public hearing is open. And John Meyer is going to take this.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Caritas Affordable Housing is seeking tax-exempt bonds to refinance 5 mobile home parks, of which 2 are located within the City of Vista. They are the Estrella de Ora and Vista Manor mobile home parks. In addition, the funds will be used to acquire and improve 3 additional mobile home parks, none of which are located within the city. The bonds are being issued by the California Municipal Finance Authority and are secured by the parks, and the payment is the obligation of Caritas with no obligation or liability to the city. The purpose of the public hearing this evening is to simply allow members of the public to comment on the use of tax-exempt financing. That concludes staff's presentation.
Okay, and I actually have no speakers to that. So I guess I would close the public hearing, and I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. That brings us, actually, is this on, we have one more, this brings oral communications, and we did a couple of them earlier, but we do have one more. So Jessica Jones.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jessica Jones, and I'm the Community Outreach Manager for Poseidon Water, and I just wanted to come tonight and give you a brief update on the pipeline construction for the Carlsbad desalination plant. So as you may know, the pipeline is a 10-mile pipeline that starts in Carlsbad. It goes through Carlsbad, parts of Vista, and into San Marcos, where it connects with the San Diego County Water Authority's aqueduct. Like cutting in and out. But I just wanted to let you know that while we've been constructing in Vista, we have been communicating closely with the businesses and their employees on Poinsettia, Lions Head, Business Park Drive. We have now entered into Carlsbad on Lions Head, so we're out of that section of Vista. But we've been working very closely with your staff and our contractor to address individual concerns that we've heard from businesses or employees that travel that area. I wanted to give you a schedule update. We will be starting paving December 30th in San Marcos and following the pipeline, catching up to Business Park Drive where we are. And then we're scheduled to enter Vista on the South Melrose section mid-March 2014. So I wanted to thank you and all your residents for your patience. We look forward to completing this project and bringing the new water supply to San Diego. Thank you.
Thank you. And that brings us to our remarks. And I think I'll start. I think I'll go this way tonight. And so I will do my remarks first here. A couple of things that I had. You guys know recently we got that memo about the prayer breakfast and that they weren't charging for the prayer breakfast. And we've had this prayer breakfast for 29 years. It wasn't something that I established or anything. And so, but I didn't know that they hadn't paid for it for 29 years. They used to have it at Bringle Terrace actually, and then here it was under Gloria McClellan on her days and through all the other mayors. So anyway, so I think, and they're the only, except for the city event, the city where we have our State of the City with a chamber. That's the only other one we don't charge for. But if it's a city sponsored our event, that's the only thing. So I think to be fair that we need to charge them also for that. I don't like to do that for the church, but I know I recently had a thing with another church that was here and they actually paid. There were a couple other churches that actually paid, and then there's one church on Sundays that has their services here and they pay, and so I think to be fair that needs to be a paid thing. So I just wanted to. I don't know who I give that to. Do I give that to staff or what do I do with that? How do I initiate that?
To pay for the event or
to have them pay? Just say it.
Yeah, I think
do I need a first and a second, or do I just need to put it on the agenda, or do we just say it?
Well, no, it wouldn't be. I think for a staff level, we can work with the organization who rented the community room.
Okay.
I believe it was $364 that the rental charge would have been. They paid for cleaning fees in the amount of $228, but the rental fee was $364 that was not paid.
So anyway, to be fair to I always think what's fair for one person is fair for everybody. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then the city is seeking nominations for a new recognition program to be debuted at the Chamber's 2014 State of the Community event called the Person of the Year. So this program has been designed to recognize those who have provided outstanding service to the Vista community. To nominate someone, download an application on the city's website at cityofvista.com or pick one up at the receptionist desk on the first floor. So if anybody knows of any people they'd like to nominate for that, let us know. Pick up an application and submit their name. If you still have holiday shopping to do, don't forget to shop locally. That's Shopping in Vista generates sales tax that helps provide for fire and sheriff services, parks and recreation, and street repairs. And also don't forget to get your gas in Vista so we get that tax back. Also, the Chamber's Shop Vista and Win campaign is underway now, so visit vistachamber.org to find out more about that. They have drawings like every week. You submit your receipts, and then they have drawings every week for prizes. So I want to thank you all for Shopping Vista and making that effort. And then this is our last City Council meeting for 2013, and as our 50th anniversary year draws to a close, this year I want to wish the City Council, the city staff, and the community a happy holiday season. I look forward to working with the City Council the new year to complete the projects we have underway now. We have a lot of projects coming online, which is very exciting, and tackle new initiatives. And so together we can keep Vista moving in the right direction. So I'm excited to look forward to the new year. And with that, I will pass it to Councilmember Aguilera.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your appointment of Deputy Mayor
My new
and
Deputy Mayor.
the support of council for that as well. There's a couple things I wanted to, well, one in particular. I had a couple of different business owners approach me on these tent sales. The first one that I was approached on was I don't know if it's Adidas or what it is, but it's over there by BMW. And then the second one was apparently a car sale or something like that that was going on at Walmart.
Yeah.
And one was just causing problems for another business. The second one was, I feel, is in direct, not conflict, but direct competition with some of our business owners here in the city of Vista. We've got several used car lots already here in the city of Vista, and I guess these guys can just set up shop wherever they like in a parking lot. And I think we need to find a way to discourage that, or I don't know what our legal limits are. I don't know what we're able to do on that, but these types of sales seem to be disrupting our businesses here in the city of Vista, and I think we should find ways to protect those businesses.
So we do have the Adidas sale that you're mentioning off of Hacienda occurs, I think, an estimated 4 times a year. And there is a process for that they go through the city to make sure that they get a permit to be able to do it. And hopefully we've worked out some of the issues through the city and the owners that it won't impede one of the businesses' retail. On the other one, it was discussed at the council meeting prior by a member of the public about the car sales in the Walmart parking lot. And if that's what you're referring to.
Yes, it is.
I don't know if you have a recommendation or.
Well, I would like to see, some sort of a special use permit or something that, I'm not exactly sure what we were able to impose, but I think we need to, make it not so easy for these businesses, because that's a big operation. And we have, plenty of businesses here that they're competing with, and it's unfair. These guys aren't paying any rent other than probably some small fee to Walmart and using their parking lot. But we've got, business owners who we've probably required to do city improvements and, for their, number of vehicles that they're going to be bringing through. They might have paid in lieu fees for stoplights, crosswalks, whatever, and I just think it's unfair. So we need to find a way that these people can also either add to that or, be completely discouraged from doing that type of business here.
I've had this conversation with others, and we can look into the type of fee that's currently charged and look into what the appropriate fee could be. Something like a minor use permit might be explored, but we can look into that.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, for sure, I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a safe holiday, Happy New Year, and it's been a pleasure this year. Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell?
Councilman Aguilera actually brought up one of the issues on my list here. I met with the owner of one of these businesses, so I'd just ask, can we put a discussion item on the next agenda to look at that particular issue and maybe have various options on the agenda so we can actually have that discussion of ways to remedy the situation? Would the rest of the council be amenable to putting that item on so we can have that discussion about this particular issue with the tent sales?
That's fine with me.
Okay. So that was one of the issues that I actually wanted to bring up, so thank you for putting that on the next agenda to have that discussion. No issues to report from my end here, except for 2 small items, actually 1 small item. One of the issues that I've been working on here as a council member over the last year are Veterans Affairs issues and how to outreach and interface with that community as a city a little bit better. So I've actually, within my position here, have a volunteer position who's going to work as my Veterans Affairs liaison, and that's John Herrera, which all of you probably know very well, and will work with me in outreaching to the veterans community and helping them get services within the community. So I want to thank him for serving in that capacity with me and helping me to outreach to those various veteran service organizations and see what I can do to help them and we as a city can do. The next one is something that I want to work on, maybe have the city create a public outreach panel or public commission to get feedback from the community, from various sectors in our community. You know, we have a very diverse community in Vista, and I think that we need to know more about what those issues and concerns are from various sectors of the community, especially the Latino community in Vista, hearing what their concerns are, what the city's doing well, what the city's doing bad. And I think this issue came up this summer but was shot down, and I'd like to have that come back and us to create a commission, a public relations commission, or whatever we want to call it, to hear from those individuals that aren't happy with the way the city is going, or maybe they are. But generally, as we all know, we hear more from complainers than from people bringing us compliments to the city. But I want to hear what those complaints are. And a lot of times people don't want to come to the council meetings and address it to the council. They want it in a smaller environment, something outside of us sitting way up here and somebody coming and speaking. So I want to look at what we can do as a city to outreach to the community in a more proactive way. So I'd like the council to put this on as a discussion item for the next agenda for creating a, whatever we want to call it, but a public outreach panel that would be made up of various members of the community, see what we can do to better serve our community. So.
Councilmember Coles?
Thank you. First of all, I do want to make sure everybody has my wishes for a happy holiday season ahead, and do lots of shopping here in Vista. It's been a robust season from my perspective. My wife can't wait to get down to the chamber before 5 o'clock on Friday to submit her receipts to try to win some prize that I'm not sure what they're giving away this year. But it's really a worthwhile event that the chamber has put on now for the past several years that it's good to participate in. We've all been participating in many of the holiday activities around our region, and I am happy to see all of you in those respects. We'll probably see more of each other, even though we don't have a council meeting before January. And I wish you luck during this season. I'm glad you brought the issue up, both Councilman Campbell and Aguilar, about the car sales. And I think it's worth looking at to make sure we're getting our share of the sales tax, and make sure that that they're not getting off scot-free with some of the costs that we incur in running our city. And I with regard to Council Member Campbell's suggestion about having a kind of a sounding board committee or an opportunity for that, I know that in the past we've had, there have been occasions where community feedback has been encouraged and scheduled, and we've attended in various respects. I would, be interested to see if there's a community interest in doing that. I hate to set up a whole structure, and I've done this before, where 2 or 3 people show up, and we've spent a lot of staff time and energy and money to do that. So I would like to explore the need and demand for that, and you've created a commission for the mayor to appoint you to, I think. So anyway, that I'm not opposed to looking into that. So whatever is appropriate, I'm willing to listen.
Can I say something about
Yeah.
that? I just think we already have a lot of commissions in the city, and the public is certainly welcome to go to those meetings. Whether it's Parks and Rec, we've had someone already represent for Parks and Rec here. These are all members of our community. They all live in the city. We've recently done our, and I always get this one wrong, but the safety, crime and substance,
Public safety
committee, and all of these I know are agendized, and we have one for art. So there's a lot of different ways for the public to actually approach the city in a small setting. So I don't know that we need another one of those unless we have something specifically that we want to address.
The complainers do have a forum. They come
Yeah.
and they show up here.
Oh, they've been here. I've seen one or two.
Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you. I agree with the conversation about, we do have a forum for people to come and talk to us, and we have scheduled a time, we have a time frame for scheduling workshops for people to come and visit us. We've had other activities over the last 20 years where we've had outreach programs for the community. Some have been successful, some not so successful. But if Councilman Campbell wanted to bring it up and have an open discussion about some way that we could do it, if he has additional ideas that maybe would be successful for further outreach into the community, I'm not opposed to discussing it. So just to put that out there. I wanted to say the Saturday parade for the Vista Parade was, even though it was wet and rainy, and I'm so glad that the rain poured on the city council at the front of the parade, and it was beautiful for the rest of the parade. They didn't get rained on. We had a great time. It was a great parade, the rain notwithstanding. And I had a guest with me on the float from the Boys and Girls Club. She had a great time. She was so excited, and she waved to everybody and said Merry Christmas and said it was the best day of her whole life. So I think that was a joy for me, and I know you all met her, and I don't know what you thought, but she had a great time, and I was really glad we did that. So thank you for indulging me for having a guest on the float with us. So I just want to say this first year in office, it's been a year now that Councilman Campbell and I have been in office. It's gone by a lot faster than I had anticipated that it would. It's been a pleasure serving the city of Vista and the people here, and I look forward to coming back in 2014. So Merry Christmas to everyone.
Okay, with that, City Attorney. And then I'll get you. Sorry.
Mayor, council, members of the public, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
And our city manager, Patrick.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to give all of you a heads up, as well as the public, that the winter edition of the City News, which is entitled Our News and the Recreation Guide, will hit your mailboxes this week. And the information is also available on the website. And as I mentioned last time, the Sheriff's Holiday Watch is in full swing, and so it'll be hitting a shopping center or neighborhood near you. So keep an eye out for that to keep everybody safe during the holidays, and just want to wish all of you happy holidays.
Thank you. How about our city clerk? Do you have anything today?
Happy holidays. See you in January.
Thank you. And we have a new assistant city clerk. Amanda. Oh, they don't give you a microphone down there? Boy.
Well, first I want to thank everyone for such a warm welcoming, and it's been wonderful to experience my first city council meeting. And I do want to thank everyone for, again, Marcy for wonderful training, and happy holidays to all.
Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned at 7:14 today.